Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail. I am joined on today's show by Jeremy Canade, who is the co-founder and CEO of Fable, a leading D2C prep brand. We're going to talk a little bit with Jeremy today about the launch of Fable and its approach that rejects the concept of pet ownership, and kind of give an overview of the brand and learn a little bit more about its products and its distribution and its customers. So thanks for joining me today, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. Really excited to be here.
So as I noted, CEO of Fable, but also the co-founder of the brand. So to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what led you to launch Fable?
Yeah, for sure. I co-founded the company with my sister, and we actually have a long track record and history of working together. We grew up in a family of pets, grew up in a creative family. Our grandfather and great-grandfather were actually artists, visual artists. Our mother was a dancer. So we grew up with a great appreciation for the arts and design, architecture. Our grandfather also was a maker. He would make furniture, and so we had a great appreciation for product and design on a fundamental level, and a tradition of entrepreneurship on our father's side. He was an entrepreneur, and as I said, we've worked together since college, my sister and I. So there's kind of a long history leading up to this. Right before I started Fable with Sophie, I was actually at another startup called Jet.com, which ultimately was acquired by Walmart. So some more startup chops on my side, Sophie coming from the investing side. Prior to that, I was a management consultant. But we founded Fable because we felt that there was a gap in the market, and we believed that we could improve on existing offerings in the space and really tap into a growing desire and acknowledgement among people that animals are parts of the family, and that they deserve better than sort of the same kind of low quality, low consideration offerings that have dominated the space for the past 20 to 100 to 1,000 years.
Right, yeah. I think that's a good kind of the brand origin story and the kind of inspiration behind the launch of Fable. I'm going to ask a secondary part of that question is, for those that yet aren't familiar with the company, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the brand?
Yeah, for sure. So we think of ourselves as a product innovation brand that's focused in the pet space. We're trying to design products to really solve problems and to smooth out points of friction or pain points in the experience of living with an animal. You hear a lot about human-centered design. We try and think of animal-centered design, human being a type of animal, but thinking holistically of the relationship between in the first instance, dog and human, and moving through life together. What are inconveniences or challenges that they face, and how can we help reduce that or eliminate it entirely through product? So we really try and create thoughtful, functional designs that achieve a certain level of aesthetic attractiveness, and really focus on the functional piece to make sure that we have a reason for being with everything that we launch. And we think that approach really helps enrich and enhance the moments you share with the animal that you live with, which is profound. It's pretty significant to be able to tap into that.
Yeah,
it's a meaningful relationship in a life.
Yeah, definitely. So the products themselves, and we're going to get into a little bit about kind of the innovativeness of the products and the development process, but I mentioned D2C brand, so obviously you can purchase at the Fable website. Any other channels in which you're selling the product through?
That's really our focus to start, but we think of ourselves less as a D2C brand than a product innovation brand. It's just, you walk before you run typically, and this is sort of how brands start nowadays. But absolutely plan to work in retail and expand our partnerships base over time, and that's part of the focus of this year.
So I mentioned the innovative products and you've talked a little bit about, that's really the kind of the foundation for Fable. So let's talk a little bit about the product development process. You mentioned kind of the innovative and creative design that's been in your kind of blood since you've been growing up. Talk about kind of product development and what it means for you at Fable.
Yeah, I think our bar is not modest. We aim to make the best version of every product that we make in this space. So that's the bar that we try and clear. We feel that every product is defensible in that regard. There's always a subjectivity in the aesthetic side, but functionally we try and make sure that it's the best version of the thing that we're making, and aligns with sort of our high bar for aesthetic as well. The process is much longer because of that. Typically, we're not just reskinning a white labeled product that a manufacturer already makes. We never do that. We design everything from scratch. We think of the pain point or inconvenience we're trying to solve for, and design back from that. And it requires a lot of testing because we're designing things from scratch. So it may not be sort of viscerally evident that all of our hardware is custom, but that's a long involved process to come up with a design that solves the problem, and to undergo rigorous testing for strength and all the points of potential failure. So a lot of iteration, a lot of testing, and we feel each of our products has cleared that bar, and we're excited to continue applying that going forward.
So I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between humans and pets, and something that you've made clear at Fable is that you reject this idea of pet ownership. So what do you mean by that first? And then secondary to that is, how is that approach manifested in really everything that Fable does, from its products to its relationships with its customers, to kind of create those pet-human relationships that are so important in so many people's lives?
Yeah. So this one kind of cuts to the core of how we think of things. And I think on the most basic level, we just think the concept of owning a sentient being is completely outdated. And it's just not a helpful model for thinking of how we relate to these animals who evolved with us over thousands of years. They're contributing members of our society. Some of them have jobs. They're extremely meaningful relationships in our lives. Our favorite dog, our childhood dog, is a cherished memory. It's something that shapes who we are. They're profound connections that cross species, but we're both animals. We both share a lot of commonalities, and they're super complex. They have emotional capacities. They've got the intelligence of small children. They're problem solving. They feel pain. They can suffer. They have memories. They can do basic math. I mean, people underestimate how complicated some of the more advanced mammals are, and it's just ownership is for objects, and they're far more complicated than objects.
Right. Yeah.
They're equivalent in many ways to small humans in some regards, and much more advanced in many other regards. So we don't think it's at all applicable to think of as pets as objects. It's a outdated way of thinking. Europe is already kind of changing the way that it thinks about pets, and has been changing laws over the last several years in several countries to reorient the law away from the ownership model in pets, and more of a caregiver model, which makes a lot more sense. That's how we think the relationship operates on a core level, and the concept of ownership actually has real implications for how animals are treated and what protections they enjoy. So that's another reason that we think it's important to issue the ownership label, because it really does actually impact their standing in court, whether, what kinds of considerations and protections they have. And even the limited animal rights protections that do exist have extremely weak enforcement, partly because the entire model is based on their objectification. So they're too valuable to us. They're too integrated in our lives. They're far too large a contributor to our society to be treated like a table, in my view. There's a really great New Yorker article actually about the concept this weekend, which tees off of a recent case involving an elephant named Happy at the Bronx Zoo, which is an interesting read.
Yeah, that's it. You put it so well that they've become valued family members. The pets in our lives are, it's like another family member. And, you're not reducing it down to ownership is a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the category. So Fable is entering a very competitive category, and a growing category, especially, as we've spent more time at home and more time with our pets over the last 2 years. More pets, more people are getting pets, and it's a growing category. So let's talk a little bit about entering that space, how Fable's dealt with challenges related to, one, getting its kind of brand out there, getting that awareness among consumers, and then trying to convert loyal customers of other pet brands to try out Fable, because some people get ingrained in buying their pet products and from certain retailers and brands, and that's just the way they go about their operation. But you're trying to convert these customers to try Fable. Tell us a little bit about creating that awareness and gaining market share and gaining market share.
Yeah, I think part of the differentiator for us is that we're trying to think of the category in a different way, right? Other legacy brands still sell choke collars with spiked prongs, still sell shock collars that electrocute living, breathing, thinking animals. They are not thinking about these creatures in a logical, reasonable way anymore. And I think over time, people are going to be more aware of that. We try and design, as I said at the beginning, products that are suited equally to the animal and the human, right? And I think that's one core differentiator. So we're really trying to solve problems with our products and really try and be thoughtful about the design while layering in a degree of a sort of aesthetic consideration that typically hasn't existed. So I think neither of our sort of pillars of the brand are actually that ubiquitous in the space. And even the concept of brand. So you mentioned the brand loyalty that's at play. And it's astute. There is a lot of brand loyalty in the pet category overall. That's one of the inspirations for us starting the business strategically, is sort of observing how loyal, how much brand equity there is in some of these pet food companies, and it's growing. People are more and more aware of what they're feeding their animals. But I would push back a little bit that there's a ton of brand equity or brand sort of awareness on the product side. You've got big box retailers, right? With some white labeled brand products, but I would argue that people are not loyal to those, partly because they're warehouses. They're trying to rebrand themselves a little bit, but they're not. Until recently, they were still choking dogs and shocking them, and it's a different philosophy. There are very few brands that are nationally recognized on the product side when we started and still today. Kong being the notable exception, and they're positioned very differently and have a very different focus on their products. There's obviously a place for them, but I would argue there's a lot of room for a design-focused, problem-solving, function-forward product company that looks better than anything on the market, and also is building a national brand, right? So I think those are core differentiators.
And I think you raise a good point, Jeremy. And I guess some of what you're competing against with those big box retailers is that just the convenience, they're already in store seeing this product. But to your point, they're not really loyal to, that particular product or brand. It's just a convenience factor. And you're trying to enter that space and tell them, why the products that you're selling at Fable are superior and with the best interest of their pet in mind. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that people, when they see our products, it can be a revelation. Oh, it didn't even occur to some people that you could get pet products that look great. There have been over the past several years a couple companies that are focused on products that look great, but don't have the equal focus on function and problem solving. Right? It's in our experience, there were not many or any other brands that have this balance of function, real problem solving, like high performing product overlaid with a beautiful aesthetic that fits into the lifestyle of younger consumers. That's a rare find in the space, actually.
And the good news for Fable is that there's certainly growing awareness because the brand is growing very rapidly, which is a great thing. However, that said, it does present its own set of challenges. So I'm interested in your perspective on, as you grow and continue to grow, how you look to scale the business efficiently and effectively without sacrificing sort of that innovation that the brand has really been built on, its foundation around these innovative products. Tell us a little about kind of managing and balancing that scaling the business while also without sacrificing some of the core innovation that it was built upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think in case it isn't evident from having spoken to me so far in the conversation, I'm very passionate about the product. So I think the whole endeavor is built around that, and we're strongly committed to the innovation piece of it. So yeah, we're super excited about the growth we've experienced. We've tried to be ruthless in terms of unit economics and really being careful with the growth to date, and not just trying to burn cash for growth's sake. We think that that's just not a healthy model. So we've tried to manage that from the beginning, and we'll continue to do so and really be focused on building a healthy business for the long term. And part of that is really investing in the product, maintaining our philosophy that we're trying to make things with purpose and not just to turn a quick buck, right? And I think that will people will appreciate that we're building a sound business. The products will stand for themselves. People, word of mouth then continues to grow. If you make great things and you get the word out, the business will continue to be healthy.
Yep, those happy customers are willing to share that they're having great experiences with the brand, and that generates that kind of domino effect.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good segue, Jeremy, into my next question. You talked about kind of investment in the brand and how you look at that. Fable recently announced that it raised $9 million in funding. So with that in mind, I'm interested in how that capital can be used to invest back into the business to help it grow.
Yeah. So on the sort of the first pass, the biggest focus immediately is building out a larger team to help across functions, and that'll help us manage the business carefully, and at its core, it'll help us sort of accelerate our product development cycle and innovation team. So the team itself is a core investment. We'll keep working on scaling the business through marketing investments, and a key focus will be partnerships this year and potentially retail. Interesting.
Okay. So that leads me into my final question for you, and growth opportunities that Fable is targeting. You obviously have created this positive momentum, and the next part is to sustain that and even continue to grow upon it. Talk talk about some of the opportunities as CEO that you're targeting, looking at, and believe could present some opportunity for Fable, as we move further into 2022 and then going forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, I see limitless opportunity on the product side. There's just there's so much friction in living with an animal in modern society. I think really keying into the latest research in animal enrichment and wellness, and continuing to do lots of testing and building prototypes and getting them in the hands of our most loyal customers who volunteer to test new products, which is one of the benefits of the growth that we've experienced, is we have more of a community now to test products more broadly before we bring them to market. And so I think just continuing to invest in the innovation across the category is an excellent growth engine. You've seen companies in the space grow to very high valuations, focused on just food or just one product or something, and we're confident that we're setting up an infrastructure that can be turning out what I called earlier, the best in every product. So that's I think the core of it.
And are the products for all kinds of animals and pets? Do you focus specifically, when I think of, the most common pets, dogs, I guess is probably top of the list. How about that?
We're called Fable Pets. We're called Fable. We're not restricting ourselves. We're certainly focused on dogs for now, but the products, a number of them can be used for other animals. We get great user content with cats in the crate, and certainly the bowls are universal. I've used the bowls that we make for mixing things in my apartment and holding my keys, and so the products are designed minimally. They're pretty versatile. So certainly cats use our products today. Yeah. And there's plenty of opportunity on that side as well.
So creating that awareness across multiple animal types and potential pets obviously opens up the customer base as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Jeremy Canade, the co-founder and CEO of Fable, for joining us on today's episode of Total Retail Talks, telling us a little bit about its business and its growth story, and what's next coming up for Fable. So thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.